Hey y'all, this is Delilah, the Pastime Cook, and I've had several requests recently to tell about how I got started collecting cookbooks. And I've definitely told this story before, so if this is a repeat for y'all, I'm so sorry. But for those who are more new to my channel, which started actually in, I believe it was May 2022, then let me just reintroduce you to how I got started. So around 2002 or 2003, my in-laws left me these boxes that had belonged to my husband's grandmother on his dad's side and my husband's great-grandmother. And so, I would pull them out periodically just because I was so amazed by them. Just the handwriting. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And I was just kind of entranced. And so that's when I really became truly interested in vintage cookbooks and all things vintage cooking related. They just kind of inspired an interest in me. And my mom and I had always cooked. My mom loved to cook, and she was a really good cook. But I can't say that we were like really, collectors until that point. But once I kind of got into it, then Mom and I started, kind of doing it together. And we've had a lot of fun over the years of going and looking for vintage cookbooks and that sort of thing. But these are the original ones that actually, kind of started it. And once, many years ago that I got into this hobby, then people would actually give me their family cookbooks because they didn't want anything to happen to them. They didn't necessarily want to keep them, but they didn't want anything to happen to them. And so people would actually start giving me their family cookbooks and stuff to kind of hold on to and take care of. And that was always, such an honor when someone would give me their mom's, their mom's recipe clippings and their mom's handwritten recipes. Because I thought, that's really just such a thing to be, to be passed along to. I felt like they were really trusting me to take care of their family's heritage like that. So that was always such an honor for me. So as time went on and I ended up with more and more of these collections of other people's recipes, the more I found that they actually were very similar. These were people of the same generation, the same era, and these were the recipes that defined them. And don't get me wrong, you'll see a lot of variations in the recipes too, especially, the same recipe but different variations from different parts of the country. But all in all, a lot of these recipes are very similar because it was their generation, and all of that history that formed their generation went into the food as well. Of my favorite recipes to cook from, it still remains my husband's family recipes. And although I've made a lot of them, I've still never made it all the way through. This is the oldest box, I believe. I believe that this one belonged to my husband's great-grandmother, which means that she would have been born, I'm going to say, late 1890s, if I remember correctly. And she actually passed away in 1973. Her daughter passed away in 1963. So the great-grandmother outlived the grandmother by about 10 years. Sometimes I'll find the grandmother's recipes with the great-grandmother. I'm assuming that the grandmother was using her mother's recipes to cook with. And I just really think that's so sweet. There were 4 original boxes, and this box that I'm looking at now is more of a menu box. There are some recipes in it, quite a few kind of at the back, but they are more of just menus. And so there's one for a Christmas menu and a Thanksgiving dinner menu, and more kind of instructional cards themselves and not so much of actual recipes. I do think this is probably the oldest recipe box because everything in it is so fragile. Whenever somebody gives me a recipe collection, I have almost like an OCD tendency where I don't move around any of the actual recipes because it seems like they're like a piece of history, like a part of history, and I shouldn't rearrange them, so I don't. Because I have had these boxes since around 2002, I have moved them around more because it really didn't occur to me how historical they were for a few years. These boxes from the 20s are extremely fragile, and I've had people tell me to laminate them, and then I've had just as many people tell me not to laminate them. So I'm not quite sure what I should do with them. If y'all have any ideas, let me know. Now, the next two boxes date anywhere from the 1940s to the 1960s, and they belong to the grandmother. As I said, she died in 63, and then her mother died in 1973. And she must have been quite a cook because she collected thousands of recipes. There's probably about 2,000 in this collection, and about 1,000 of them are hers. And although I've had this recipe collection for 20 years, actually a little bit longer, I've still never cooked through all of them. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to try to give some special attention to certain cookbooks in my collection. Anyhow, if y'all have made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Hope y'all have enjoyed it, and let me know if you have any questions.